A paper napkin stained with tears, a frightened little girl clutching her father's sleeve, and one quiet act of kindness changed 3 lives forever. No one inside that busy restaurant noticed the exhausted single father who silently paid for a stranger's meal before walking away, believing he would never see her again. He had no idea that only a few days later, a polished black luxury car would stop outside his tiny rented home, and a billionaire's driver would step out holding an envelope that would uncover a truth far greater than money ever could. If you believe that kindness always finds its way back, even when the world seems unfair, please like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone who still believes in hope, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our community that celebrates compassion, forgiveness, and second chances. Rowan Mercer had spent the last 4 years learning how heavy silence could become. Ever since losing his wife to a sudden illness, every sunrise began the same way. He prepared breakfast before dawn, packed lunches with careful hands, braided the messy blonde hair of his 8-year-old daughter Hazel after watching countless online tutorials, and hurried to his construction job where every hour mattered because every missed paycheck meant another stack of unpaid bills. He never complained in front of Hazel. She believed her father could fix anything because he repaired broken cabinets, leaking faucets, scraped knees, and bad dreams with equal patience. The only thing Rowan could never repair was the empty chair that remained at their small kitchen table. Their apartment was clean but painfully modest. The wallpaper peeled in the corners, the refrigerator hummed louder than it cooled, and the couch had been repaired so many times that its patches formed their own pattern. Still, laughter somehow found its place there. Hazel had inherited her mother's gift of seeing beauty in ordinary things. She collected colorful leaves, drew smiling faces on sticky notes, and left little messages around the apartment reminding her father that he was doing better than he believed. One Saturday afternoon after Rowan received a small overtime payment, he surprised Hazel with lunch at a neighborhood family restaurant. It was not expensive, but to Hazel it felt like a celebration. She ordered pancakes even though it was well past breakfast because she said pancakes tasted like happy memories. Rowan laughed for the first time in days and realized how desperately both of them needed moments that were not measured by bills or responsibilities. As they waited for their food, Rowan noticed a woman sitting alone 2 tables away. She looked elegant, but exhaustion had erased every sign of comfort from her face. Her clothes were tasteful yet wrinkled, as if she had been wearing them for days. A leather folder rested beside her untouched plate, and every few moments she wiped tears away before pretending to study the menu again. Several people glanced at her before quickly looking away. Nobody wanted to interrupt another person's pain. Hazel noticed her too. Children often recognized sadness before adults admitted it existed. She quietly whispered that the lady looked lonely. Rowan nodded but remained seated, believing everyone deserved privacy. A few minutes later, however, he saw the woman search through her purse with increasing panic. She checked every pocket twice before speaking softly with the server. Even from a distance, Rowan could recognize embarrassment spreading across her face. Her wallet was gone. The restaurant manager appeared polite at first, but the growing lunchtime crowd made patience disappear quickly. The woman explained that she had apparently misplaced her purse during an emotionally difficult morning and promised she could return with payment. Rules were rules, and although no one raised their voice, the humiliation on her face became impossible to ignore. She looked ready to disappear beneath the table. Without making a scene, Rowan walked to the register and quietly paid her entire bill along with his own. He asked the manager not to tell her who had done it. Before leaving, Hazel gently placed one of her small drawings beside the woman's folded napkin. It showed a bright sun shining over 2 smiling stick figures with the words, "Tomorrow can be better." Neither Rowan nor Hazel waited for thanks. They simply walked outside into the warm afternoon sunlight, climbed into Rowan's aging pickup truck, and drove home believing they had done something small that any decent person would have done. The following week brought more challenges. Rowan learned that construction hours would be reduced because one major project had been postponed. Less work meant less income. He calculated every expense repeatedly, wondering whether he should skip replacing his worn-out work boots so Hazel could continue attending her weekend art classes. He never told her about the difficult choices because he wanted her childhood to remain untouched by financial worry for as long as possible. 3 days later, while Rowan repaired a loose porch step outside their apartment building during his day off, a sleek black luxury sedan slowly pulled to the curb. The neighbors immediately paused whatever they were doing. Cars like that never visited their neighborhood. A sharply dressed older gentleman stepped out wearing white gloves and carrying a small envelope. His posture reflected decades of discipline, yet kindness softened every movement. He asked if Rowan Mercer lived there. Rowan hesitated before introducing himself. The driver smiled warmly and handed him the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter inviting Rowan and Hazel to visit a nearby estate that same afternoon. The letter explained that someone wished to personally thank him for an act of kindness that had changed everything. Confused and slightly suspicious, Rowan nearly declined. Life had taught him to distrust situations that seemed too extraordinary. Yet the letter contained details about the restaurant that no stranger could have known. After discussing it with Hazel, who insisted that adventures sometimes arrived disguised as ordinary days, they accepted the invitation. The estate sat beyond rolling green fields bordered by ancient oak trees. It was grand without feeling cold, impressive without shouting for attention. The driver welcomed them with sincere respect rather than superiority, making Hazel feel comfortable despite the enormous surroundings. Waiting inside the sunlit garden was the same woman from the restaurant. Her appearance had changed completely. The sadness remained in her eyes, but dignity had returned to her posture. She introduced herself as Celeste Whitmore and thanked Rowan with tears that no longer came from despair but from overwhelming gratitude. She explained that the day they met had been the worst day of her life. She had just attended a difficult legal meeting concerning the future of her family's charitable foundation after the passing of her grandfather, one of the country's most respected business leaders. Although newspapers described the Whitmore family as unimaginably wealthy, they never reported the loneliness hidden behind the fortune. Celeste admitted she had left the meeting emotionally shattered. While walking through the city lost in grief, she unknowingly dropped her purse. By the time she reached the restaurant, she had not only misplaced her wallet but had nearly lost hope in people. Family disputes over inheritance had convinced her that generosity only existed when something valuable could be gained in return. Then a stranger expecting absolutely nothing had quietly restored her faith. Hazel's drawing remained folded inside Celeste's journal. She carried it everywhere. Rowan listened respectfully but insisted he had simply helped someone having a difficult day. He expected the visit to end with a handshake. Instead, Celeste revealed another reason for inviting them. Her grandfather had believed that true character appeared in moments when nobody was watching. For years, he had secretly encouraged family members to notice ordinary acts of kindness rather than impressive business achievements. His will contained an unusual instruction. Every year, the family foundation would identify people whose quiet compassion demonstrated exceptional integrity and offer support that could genuinely improve their lives without demanding anything in return. Celeste admitted she had almost ignored that tradition after becoming consumed by grief. Then Rowan reminded her why her grandfather had created it. She had hired a private investigator only to locate the man who paid her restaurant bill because she wanted to thank him personally. During that process she learned about Rowan's life, his years of raising Hazel alone, his dedication to honest work, and his refusal to accept charity despite constant hardship. Rowan immediately became uncomfortable. He disliked the feeling of being studied. Celeste quickly apologized, explaining she respected his privacy and only wanted confirmation that her gratitude reached the right person. Then she presented him with an opportunity rather than a gift. The Whitmore Foundation funded community housing renovation projects across the region. They needed an experienced site supervisor known not only for technical skill but also for integrity. The position offered stable income, health insurance, flexible hours for parents, and educational support for employees' children. Rowan stared at the offer in disbelief. He had expected perhaps a thank you card. Instead, someone believed in his character enough to trust him with meaningful responsibility. He hesitated because pride often disguises itself as humility. Accepting help felt uncomfortable after years of surviving alone. Hazel gently squeezed his hand. She did not see charity. She saw someone recognizing the goodness her father practiced every single day. Rowan accepted the position with quiet gratitude, promising he would earn every opportunity through hard work. Over the following months, life slowly transformed. The changes did not arrive as dramatic miracles but as steady improvements built one day at a time. Rowan no longer feared every unexpected expense. Hazel continued her art lessons and eventually displayed her paintings at a local youth exhibition. Their apartment became brighter after Rowan finally repaired everything he had postponed for years. Most importantly, laughter returned more often than worry. Yet Rowan refused to let success change him. He remembered exactly how uncertainty felt. Whenever his renovation crews completed community housing projects, Rowan personally greeted every family moving into their restored homes. He treated each person with the same quiet respect he once wished others had shown him during difficult times. Celeste also experienced her own transformation. Working alongside Rowan reminded her that wealth alone could never create purpose. She became personally involved in foundation projects instead of simply approving paperwork from distant offices. She visited schools, shelters, and neighborhood centers, discovering that genuine human connection filled an emptiness money had never touched. One warm afternoon nearly a year after the restaurant encounter, the foundation organized a community celebration marking the completion of its largest housing renovation project. Families gathered beneath bright blue skies while children chased bubbles across freshly planted grass. Local musicians played cheerful melodies, volunteers served homemade food, and neighbors who had once struggled alone now celebrated together. During the ceremony, Celeste quietly displayed Hazel's faded drawing inside a simple glass frame. Many people assumed it belonged in an expensive art gallery because of the story behind it. Hazel laughed and admitted she had drawn it in less than 2 minutes with borrowed crayons. Celeste smiled and explained that its value had never come from artistic perfection. It represented hope arriving at exactly the right moment. Rowan looked around the crowd and realized something remarkable. The greatest reward had never been the new career, the financial stability, or the impressive estate. It was discovering that one unnoticed decision made during an ordinary afternoon had quietly spread kindness farther than anyone could have imagined. The people celebrating together represented dozens of lives connected through a single compassionate choice that expected no applause. Before this story comes to its close, take a moment to share something meaningful in the comments. Tell us about one act of kindness that changed your life, or describe a moment when someone gave you hope during your hardest days. Your story might become the encouragement another person desperately needs today. As the afternoon sun painted the neighborhood in warm golden light, Rowan watched Hazel run across the grass with carefree laughter that had once seemed impossible during their darkest years. Celeste stood nearby smiling with genuine peace, finally understanding that the strongest legacy her grandfather left behind was never measured in wealth but in compassion passed from one heart to another. The billionaire's driver had arrived carrying an envelope, but the real gift was far greater than the opportunity inside it. It was proof that kindness never truly disappears. It travels through lives in ways we cannot predict, quietly returning when hope feels most distant. Rowan had offered help without expecting recognition, and because of that selfless choice, countless other families would eventually receive homes, encouragement, and second chances of their own. In a world that often celebrates power and success, it was an ordinary single father with a generous heart who reminded everyone that the smallest act of compassion can echo across generations. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind you that every act of kindness matters, every person deserves compassion, and sometimes the greatest miracles begin with nothing more than the decision to help a stranger.